When a patient complains, it's usually because they're unhappy with the treatment or service they have received. Often a complaint can be an accumulation of different concerns. Knowing how to deal with the complaint appropriately can help resolve it quickly and to the patient's satisfaction, but it's important to ask for our help early in the complaint handling process, so please call us as soon as possible. Patients are looking to achieve different things from their complaint. Often, it's just an explanation and an apology, or an assurance that the same thing won't happen to someone else. Others may want financial compensation. It's a good idea to establish early on what outcome the patient expects. You have an ethical duty to respond appropriately to complaints, and the GDC's booklet, Standards for the Dental Team, explains what's expected of you. If you treated the patient under the NHS, you should also follow the NHS complaints procedure. For private practitioners, we recommend having an in-house complaints procedure that follows the NHS example. Complaints will be made to the practice in one of two ways, either verbally or in writing. A verbal complaint should be recorded by the person who receives it. Don't insist on the complainant putting it in writing themselves, as this can just aggravate the situation. Your response should be prompt, professional and polite. Sometimes just your sympathy and willingness to listen can be enough to resolve the patient's concerns. Less serious verbal complaints can often be resolved informally within 24 hours, perhaps in a one-to-one private conversation with the patient. It's important to acknowledge all the patient's concerns and show that you understand how they feel. A sincere apology and a gesture of goodwill, an offer to waive the fees say, may resolve their complaint. Written complaints and more serious verbal complaints must be treated formally. You should follow the timeline set down in the practice procedure for acknowledging and responding to the complaint. In your acknowledgement letter, you should include a copy of your practice complaints procedure and an offer to meet to discuss how the complaint will be investigated. You should also advise the complainant where to go for further help, such as Citizens Advice or PALS. If you need more time to investigate the complaint, you should let the patient know why there is a delay and when they can expect to receive your response. Once your investigation is complete, you must write to the patient explaining your findings and any practical solutions you are prepared to provide. This may include putting things right at no extra cost. The tone of your response is important. Be sympathetic and professional, but never defensive. If, despite your best efforts, the patient is still dissatisfied, you must let them know their right to refer their complaint to an independent body. For example, the Ombudsman for NHS complaints, and for private patients, the Dental Complaints Service. One thing to bear in mind is that it isn't always the patient who complains. It might be a relative or friend acting on their behalf. If so, you should always make sure you have the patient's express consent to respond to a third party, preferably in writing. We always advise members to be totally open and honest. Your letter of response should address each of the patient's concerns in straightforward language and avoiding technical terms. Consider the outcome the patient wants and how this might be achieved. If it's not clear what the patient wants, it might be appropriate to ask. Members often ask if they should apologise to the patient. An appropriate apology is not an admission of liability. In many cases, it may be all the patient wants to hear. The DDU is here to help you respond to complaints. For individual advice, please call our team of Dento Legal Advisors.